I don't know if you are aware, but I talked about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse on my channel. A couple of times I've been following that event. And one of the things that has come up is how Ro Khanna is connected to all of this. So it appears, and I showed this on the show, it appears that Ro Khanna apparently had stock in Silicon Valley Bank. He continues to say these stocks aren't his, but I showed people the screen share on my show that it does have his name. So there's more to be said there. He tried to hide the tweet where people were calling this out to him. But it gets even crazier because this goes further, because now Ro Khanna is scheduled to have a fundraiser with David Sacks. Now, if you don't know who David Sacks is, you're going to find out tonight. I have a lot to show, a lot to say, but it goes against everything that Ro Khanna says that he stands for as a progressive, quote unquote, progressive grassroots politician. Now, I saw this on Twitter and it took me back a bit. I had to take a step back. Now, it was actually Teddy who posted this. Strange bedfellows alert. David Sacks is doing a fundraiser dinner for Ro Khanna later this month per invite. Tickets from $3,300 to $13,200. Now, here's the invitation. I'm not sure how he found out this information, but here's the invitation. And it says, actually, I'll just keep it this way so you can see it. Ro Khanna, congressman representing Silicon Valley, please join Jacqueline and David Sacks for a dinner reception with Ro Khanna. Representative for Silicon Valley in California's 17th District. This event is taking place Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. So it hasn't happened yet, but it is coming up. That's next week. Address to be provided upon RSVP. So here's the other thing that was strange to me. It says at the home of Jacqueline and David Sacks in San Francisco, California. So this fundraiser is taking place at their house. Okay. You don't just get invited. Everybody's not just invited to their house. So what's the relationship between Ro Khanna and David Sacks? Let's go on. Contribution levels per plate / attendee. Leadership circle couple, $13,200. Leadership circle individual, $6,600. Champion, $3,300. So to be clear, this is not an event for working class people. This is not an event for middle class people. This is an event for people who have money, people who have $13,000 to just give away, $6,000 to just give away, $3,000 to just give away. That is who this event is for. And by the way, this is per plate. You see that? Per plate. It says, please RSVP and contribute here. Now, I want to read the fine print. Sorry. It's very tiny. An individual may give no more than $6,600 per election cycle. A couple may give no more than $13,200 per election cycle. Ro Khanna does not accept any contributions from PACs, corporations, or registered lobbyists, but he does accept contributions from individuals. And this is something that I've tried to explain to people before. You can say that you're a grassroots politician. You can say you don't take corporate money. The way that they've been getting around this is they've been taking corporate money from individuals who are corporate. So they're still in a way taking corporate money, but they can still say they're not taking it because they're not taking money from a corporate PAC. That's a workaround. Ro Khanna knows that he should not be at this event. Do you see what I'm saying? This is a fundraiser for him. It's his name on the invitation. Now, Teddy goes on to say, this is important. Sachs is a center-right VC, that's venture capitalist, who is becoming a bigger and bigger player in Republican fundraising. And I'm going to show you the receipts. Ro Khanna is a Democratic congressman who co-chaired Bernie Sanders' campaign and might run for the nomination of U.S. Senate. But they're both big on protecting free speech rights. So you see how this is working out here? See how, again, like I told you, when they decide to have bipartisanship, it's okay. But when we are trying to protest or organize, we're not allowed to have bipartisanship. Now, he goes on to say, David Sachs is also a fan of how Ro Khanna has handled the Silicon Valley Bank situation, although the planning for this event predates the current crisis. So we're going to get into that in just a second, because the first thing people were saying is that, oh, why are they doing this event right after the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, right? Ro Khanna, in his defense, he's saying that this event was actually planned before the bank collapse. But I also just told you that he had stocks in Silicon Valley Bank. So the collapse affects him. David Sachs has been on multiple shows talking about this collapse because, again, the collapse affects him. So they are both directly affected. Now, I want to play this clip here. Look who shared it. David Sachs shared this clip. Kudos to Ro Khanna. Every word of this is true. Decisive action is needed to protect the regional banking system. The run on other banks has already started. So you see how they backing each other up? So let's go ahead and start this clip here. Make sure we have sound.
I wonder what you make of the Treasury Secretary's remarks. I know you've been in contact with the White House, with Treasury, and with FDIC.
I have great respect for Secretary Yellen, but I think we need to have more clarity and greater strength in what Treasury is saying. First, the principle needs to be that all depositors will be protected and have full access to their accounts Monday morning.
All depositors, meaning those with accounts bigger than $250,000, which is the cutoff for insurance right now.
Yes, all of them. There's press.
He means people like David Sachs, people who have deposits over $250,000. That's important for people to know.
Precedent for this. Chair Powell, when he was at Treasury in 1991, the Bank of New England collapsed. And Chair Powell said that Treasury coordinated with FDIC and with the Fed, and they insured every depositor then. And why did they do it? They didn't want a regional run on the banks. Here's what I'm hearing from people in my constituency. They are getting notes to pull out of regional banks, and all of this will be consolidated in the top 4 banks. We don't want that as a nation, especially if you're progressive. The other thing is the payroll companies that are involved. Some of them have 400,000 folks. They're not going to be able to meet payroll if they don't have access to the deposits.
So I want to make something very clear. This is not just about this fundraiser that's coming up. This is not just about helping Ro Khanna campaign. This is also about making sure that they help those depositors who had their money in Silicon Valley Bank. Now, I want to go ahead and pull up this article here. I'm going to show you a video to explain to you who David Sachs is. Now, he has some good points on some issues, but he's still corporate. So let's not get it twisted. And more people should be calling this out. More people should be calling it out that here you have Ro Khanna seriously locking hands here with David Sachs, a venture capitalist. Now, Ro Khanna has come out and has tried to defend his participation with this fundraiser. It says Representative Ro Khanna defends fundraiser at David Sachs' home after supporting Silicon Valley Bank bailout. Now, this was released 2 days ago. Listen to this. I'll make this larger. Representative Ro Khanna, the Democratic congressman from Silicon Valley, is defending his plan to hold a fundraiser at the home of venture capitalist David Sachs in the wake of advocating for government intervention in Silicon Valley Bank collapse. Sachs, who was PayPal Holdings Inc., PYPL, plus 1.82% founding chief operating officer, and often tweets political opinions that mostly differ from Khanna's, was among the most outspoken of venture capitalists calling for the government to step in after the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. At one point in the weekend after the bank's collapse, Sachs tweeted, "Where is Powell? Where is Yellen? Stop this crisis now," and has lately been defending the perceived role of venture capitalists in the collapse. Now, why would he defend that? Because he is one of them. He's a venture capitalist, so they're going to protect each other. The timing of the fundraiser is coincidental. This is coming from Ro Khanna. Khanna told Market Watch in an interview this week it was planned last month before the Silicon Valley Bank failure and Khanna's advocacy for the bailout that Sachs also sought, he said. On their opposing political views, Khanna said David Sachs knows what my agenda is. He knows I'm a supporter of Bernie Sanders and of higher taxes on people like him. And yet he's still willing to do this fundraiser for you. How are you helping him? Because this is how it works in politics. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. So what is Ro Khanna doing for David Sachs? The congressman added that he disagrees with Sachs' support of Republican politicians such as Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. So again, when it comes to the politicians, these venture capitalists, these corporatists, it is okay for them to have bipartisanship. It's okay with Ro Khanna. And by the way, the next person who interviews Ro Khanna needs to call this out. It's okay with Ro Khanna to cozy up to people like David Sachs, who has supported Ron DeSantis, who's trying to remove books from schools, by the way, and who has supported J.D. Vance, who is also backed by Trump. And I'm going to show you how he's donated as well when it comes to politicians. It's okay for Ro Khanna to organize with him, to collaborate with him, to fundraise with him. This is what I meant before when I said both of these parties have some of the same donors. David Sachs is one of those people. And although he's donating to Democrat politicians, he is heavily donated to Republican politicians, more so than Democrat politicians. When Reach for Comment Tuesday, Sachs referred to Market Watch to his recent tweet about Ro Khanna, which acknowledged that both he and the congressman are getting criticized about the fundraiser, as they should. So this is what he tweeted. I came to respect Ro Khanna when he supported free speech in the Twitter files and endorsed a diplomatic track on Ukraine in parallel with military funding. It's a sad statement that both of us are being attacked by our respective sides for seeking to find common ground. And then here's Ro Khanna here. Look at this. It says, politics is about addition and persuasion. David and I have disagreements, but we find common ground on cutting bloated defense spending, opposing the Yemen war, First Amendment, having core convictions, but engaging with those who see the world differently is needed in our nation. But Ro Khanna will tell you as an organizer and as an activist to do the opposite. And I know this because I've interviewed him. These are the kind of things that go on behind the scenes that we usually are not supposed to see, but it was revealed. Khanna said that he has shown that he can be proud of getting support from tech leaders and yet be independent of them. No, because if you're getting donations and support from tech leaders, particularly in Silicon Valley, you're not independent of them. You're helping them out some way or another that we may not see. And the fact that both of them were attached to Silicon Valley Bank, that says something to me. Now, it goes on to say the tech community explicitly lobbied me on deregulation in 2018, and I stood up to them and voted against it. He was probably given the green light to do that. Let's not be fooled, people. He said, referring to the weakening of the 2010 Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. The rollback eased regulations for smaller banks and is now being blamed as one of the factors in the demise of Silicon Valley Bank. Now, we need to discuss who David Sachs is. I want to show you a video here because I'm seeing this guy go on a lot of people's shows, and that's fine. But I think just because David Sachs agrees with free speech, just because he agrees with ending the war in Yemen, that does not mean that he is not a corporatist. That does not mean that he is not someone that you should be concerned about. And you should be concerned about him. He is corporate. So the fact that you still have Ro Khanna cozying up to a corporate venture capitalist and doing a fundraiser with him, and both of them were connected to Silicon Valley Bank, everyone's radar should be going off at this point in time. That is not progressive. That is not grassroots. You are still gaming the system. So here's a little bit here about about David Sachs. I want to show you who he is.
Didn't want to be stuck in a linear salary progression. And even though he might not say that publicly, a young alpha like David certainly aimed for goals he would never have reached in consulting or banking.
There's not like a track. You know exactly where you're going to be in your career in 10 years and probably know what the salary is going to be and all this sort of stuff.
In other words, he had that drive, that debateman gene, and he would put it to good use. Around that time, brethren Peter Thiel and Max Levchin had just started a small payment startup called PayPal. David Sachs, massaging Excel tables at McKinsey, had thought he missed this whole internet thing.
And, I actually thought I had missed the whole internet thing.
Peter approached David, and David was in, mainly.
Okay, this shows you the kind of people that he worked with. So he works with Peter Thiel. Far right Peter Thiel. Again, like I said, wealthy people, doesn't matter. They're not sitting back saying, oh, no, I'm not going to work with that person because I'm not going to do business with that person because they're Republican. No, they still work together. Peter Thiel. Let's go on.
Because PayPal was aiming to go big or go home. They even had an index that our channel 100% approves of.
We sort of knew on a certain level that it was changing the world. Like at PayPal, we had this user counter that would track the user growth. We called it the World Domination Index.
At PayPal, David Sachs took the role of the COO.
Okay, I want to pause here. These are all the people in reference to PayPal. Now, you need to remember who started PayPal. That was Pierre Omidyar. So Pierre Omidyar, I hope I'm saying the last name right, Pierre Omidyar, who is the billionaire who funds The Intercept, started PayPal. You see how they all work together? So you have Pierre, you have David Sachs, and you have Peter Thiel. They have class solidarity.
In the present, he's often referred to as one of the greatest operators of all times.
There are two individuals who are considered the greatest operators of all time. One would be Sheryl Sandberg, and of course there's David Sachs.
What the f*** is an operator? Well, you have the CEO strategizing and promising stuff, and you have the COO trying to fix the shit in the background. What exactly did Sachs do that was so wonderful? Well, one thing was that under his leadership, PayPal grew revenue from $0 to $240 million per year. The company introduced business accounts and expanded into multiple currencies and over 80 countries. Nevertheless, at one point, PayPal was losing money so fast that there was a real danger that they would go bankrupt.
I think our company was burning about $10 million a month.
But we know how the story ends. PayPal had their initial public offering in February 2002. There was massive tension and nervousness as it was one of the first IPOs after the September 11 attacks. On the first day of trading, the stock rose more than 54%. And a couple of months later, in October 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Jackpot. David Sachs wetted his beak for the very first time.
And there's Elon Musk. So you have Elon Musk, you have Peter Thiel, and you have David Sachs. They're all together. One big club.
He didn't make hundreds of millions or billions, but it definitely qualified as f*** you money. At this point, let's run a little thought experiment. What if Sachs would have held on to his stake in PayPal?
PayPal is at a 300+ billion market cap today.
Probably sold these companies too early. I think one of the dilemmas about being a pioneer in a market is you don't really know how big that market's going to be.
Sachs could be much richer than he is today, up there in multi-billion-dollar territories. But the truth is, it's very difficult to assess the right time to exit a startup, especially if you are not rich yet, and thus you are tempted by the money that's being offered to you. Do you really want to risk falling back to zero? That's why typically it's necessary for a founder to have 1 to 2 smaller exits that provide for some f*** you money. A couple of millions in the bank, and during your next startup, you will be able to hold out longer before giving in to these billion-dollar acquisition proposals. And also for Sachs.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Kinky. I always thought Musk started PayPal. You're correct. Elon Musk started PayPal. Pierre started eBay. I get that mixed up sometimes, but still a billionaire. All these people are connected.
PayPal would not be his most successful exit. He still had much bigger things in the pipeline. But first, he went into the movie business.
Before we get to the movie business part, let's go here, because I want to pause right when he shows that.
It's necessary for a founder to have 1 to 2 smaller exits that provide for some f*** you money. A couple of millions in the bank, and during your next startup, you will be able to hold out longer before giving in to these billion-dollar acquisition proposals. And also for Sachs, PayPal would not be his most successful exit.
So you see here, it says David Sachs, individual investor. He's an investor. Okay. So one of the organizations, his primary organization is Craft Ventures. Watch all the other ones that appear.
He still had much bigger things in the...
David Sachs has 17 exits. Their most notable exits are Uber, Slack, and Scotty Labs. So he's Uber, Slack, Scotty Labs, PlanGrid, Open Door, MyHeritage, Gift, GrabCAD, and then I can't see down here. What you can't see is Glide, and Get Fresh.
The pipeline. But first, he went into the movie business.
So he's even invested in Hollywood. This is who Khanna is fundraising with.
I'd always liked movies, and I watched a lot of them, especially third-year law school.
The most popular movie Sachs produced and financed is the movie Thank You for Smoking. The movie follows the efforts of Big Tobacco's chief spokesman Nick Naylor, who lobbies on behalf of cigarettes while also trying to remain a role model for his 12-year-old son. And of course, David was successful with it. What did you expect? Thank You for Smoking was nominated for 2 Golden Globes in 2007. The movie also won Best Screenplay at the Independent Spirit Awards, Audience Awards at both the Munich and Norwegian film festivals, as well as some more awards that probably none of my audience has ever heard of. The movie was produced on a budget of $10 million and grossed $39 million in box office. Although David wet his beak, it's safe to say that he worked on movies because he was intrinsically motivated and passionate about it. Nevertheless, after some years, Sachs was looking for a new adventure.
Well, after spending a few years in Hollywood, I started to become nostalgic for the relative sanity of Silicon Valley.
His next adventure would prove to be far more profitable for Sachs than PayPal, a smart move that would elevate him into the Hall of Silicon Valley founder and operator legends forever. In 2006, Sachs founded Genie.com, a genealogy website that enables family members to collaboratively build an online family tree. What happened next is a beautiful example of how solutions that solve a startup's problems internally can sometimes be spun out as a separate company. Sachs wanted more visibility into what was going on across the organization at Genie. His team created a productivity tool to help employees share information. In 2008, Sachs and co-founder Adam Pisoni spun this internal communications tool into a standalone company called Yammer. Yammer is a bit like a company internal Facebook. Employees can communicate, post status updates, or collaborate in working groups. Thanks to a secret technique, Yammer was one of the fastest growing software as a service companies in history, exceeding 8 million enterprise users in just 4 years, and pocketing an impressive 142 million in funding from venture capital firms. How did Yammer achieve this rapid growth?
So you see where they're going here. You see where they're going.
What was the secret?
And I tend to focus on bottom-up SaaS. It's SaaS, it's business software where the users or the employees of the company pull the software into the company like a consumer would. So it's kind of consumerized business software. That was the go-to-market strategy, or the idea that Yammer really pioneered, a dozen years ago.
Something David Sachs certainly is at this point. And he's also a big fan and friend of Peter Thiel.
He's a fan and friend of Peter Thiel. So they're not just business partners. Peter Thiel.
Discussed in my Peter Thiel documentary, Thiel had a unique strategy after his liquidity event. Thiel applied a 3-pillar strategy to both conserve his wealth and maximize the probability for moonshots. Firstly, he started a hedge fund to preserve and grow his capital. Secondly, he became active in venture capital, doing angel investments and starting VC funds. Thirdly, he became a venture builder, founding Palantir. Sachs took a more focused approach, essentially focusing on Pillar 2, venture capital. His experience as an operator gave him a unique edge to choose and support the most promising startup investments as an angel investor. And
that's where a lot of the money is, though, too, venture capitalists. These people are making like millions. I want to make sure I show you the other piece before I show you who he has donated money to. Here's the part you may not know. This is going to crack you up. When we talk about David's next adventure, don't shoot the messenger, but wait for it.
Sachs ever return to the poker table, go all in, and hope to build another massive company? It's unlikely.
I go on Zoom calls a couple of times a day. It's a great life. It's flattering, but I'm done. I'm done operating.
Although Sachs fans will know that he started a social podcasting app called Call In summer 2021, around the time when people still gave a single f about.
That's right. He's the one who started Call In. He's the one who started Call In, guys. David Sachs. Now, I want to show you more. I'm not going to finish that video because there's something else I want to show you too. Yes, Bad Cookies. Yes, he did. He started Call In. And again, he doesn't claim to not be a corporatist. He doesn't claim to be progressive or any of those things. The problem is, though, is that Ro Khanna does. Ro Khanna says that he doesn't take, PAC money, and, he's a progressive, he's grassroots. But here he is doing a fundraiser at David Sacks' home, at his home, where the highest plate is $13,000 and the lowest is $3,000. So that being said, though, we need to talk about his donations, because I always tell you to follow the money. And you can see this on the FEC. So the Federal Elections Commission, you can look this up for yourself, but I want to show you who he's donating to. Let me make this larger for you so you can see it, because it's very tiny. That's about right. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Who is David Sacks donating to? Now, what I want to do, you can't scroll with this one. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Sorry, guys, because I need to be able to scroll over, which I cannot do. Actually, I don't have to do that. I want to show you. See, here's contributor name. So you can see he's the one donating. There's his name here. And then we have recipient, right? So let's go back. Let's start 2021. Look at who David Sacks, look at who he's donating to. Act Blue, right? So that's Democrats. Democrats there. Let me make sure I'm going in the right order, because I may have to come out and go back in. But so far you see a lot of Democrats, right? Let me make sure. Let me make this a little bit smaller, because I saw this earlier and I might be missing a amount, receipt, date. Let's see, because I saw we're going to go to 100. I saw where he donated right about there. Bam. Make this larger. Now that I see where it's at. I hate these kind of screens that have this panel over here on the side. Anywho, and you can't scroll over. Okay. David Sacks donating to, in 2021, he donated to JD Vance. Not once, but twice. $2,900, $800. That was a Trump-backed Republican in Ohio. See, again, this is someone that in the past, they actually donated heavily more so to Republicans. They're donating more so to Democrats now. But the point that I'm trying to make is he donates to both parties. And neither party has any problem taking any money from him. So this is an issue. He's donating to Trump candidates. And that's who Ro Khanna is okay with having a fundraiser with. He's okay with having a fundraiser with that guy. Let's see who else. He donates to PACs as well. Stand for America PAC. Working for Ohio. Let's go down here a little bit. We can also sort. He donates to Act Blue, obviously. See, he's smart. These are small amounts, right? Multiple small amounts. Purple Good Government PAC, Purple PAC, PGG PAC, PPA, or excuse me, PPAC. Mark Kelly for Senate. Mark Kelly is a Democrat who ran in Arizona. So like I said, he donated to both. Now let's go back up to the top, because I want to change the date. Let's go to, actually, can we sort by amount? This is going to blow your mind. When you sort by amount, largest amount, this goes back to April 2022. Protect Ohio Values PAC. Kraft Ventures. Notice how it says employer, Kraft Ventures. Remember, I told you that's one of his companies. $900,000. Purple Good Government PAC, $125,000. And that's on here multiple times. Protect Ohio Values PAC, over $100,000. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Republican National Committee, the RNC itself, $6,500. And that was just last year, April 26, 2020. So he is giving thousands of dollars to the Republican Party, to the RNC. And Ro Khanna has no problem fundraising with this guy. But you, ladies and gentlemen, you can't march for Medicare for all with people across the aisle. You can't do that. You'll get smeared. Why is anybody smearing these politicians for working with people on the right, organizing and doing fundraisers with them? They can have bipartisanship. He donated to the RNC again at April 26, 2022, $36,500. Ohioans for JD, I think that's JD Vance again, $8,700. Now, as much as Ro Khanna was telling people that the Democrat who ran against JD Vance, who was that Tim Scott? I forget his last name. You guys know what I'm talking about. The Democrat who ran against JD Vance, as much as Ro Khanna liked to get on TV and tell people he really needs to win. Tim Ryan, that's his name. Tim Ryan really needs to win so we can, take back these Senate seats. And the person you're organizing with, you're fundraising with, was donating to the candidate who won, to the Republican. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. Kyrsten Sinema, this is the one I wanted you to see. Kyrsten Sinema, I told you guys, she takes a lot of money. She's with these venture capitalists. She's very much in deep with them. Sinema for Arizona, May 2022, $2,900, another $2,900 also in May. That's Kyrsten Sinema. So again, this is important because you need to understand why these people vote the way that they do. When people were mad at Kyrsten Sinema, because they felt like she was holding up legislation, right? She was voting against it. Remember, she voted against the $15 minimum wage increase. Look at who she's taking money from. She's taking money from people like David Sachs, who David Sachs may agree with you that the Democratic Party is no longer for the working class. He'll agree with that. David Sachs may agree with you that we need to end the war in Yemen. He'll agree with that. David Sachs may agree with you that, or maybe some of you, that they have to fix the regional banks. He'll agree with you on that. But behind the scenes, does David Sachs agree with you on increasing the minimum wage? Because if he didn't, that explains a lot about Kyrsten Sinema's donations. He describes himself as center-right. And that's who someone like Kyrsten Sinema's taking money from. John Kennedy for us. More for JD Vance. Blake Masters for Senate. Again, Republican. And there's Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna, November 2022, $2,900. So yes, Ro Khanna may not be taking PAC money per se. But when you're taking money from David Sachs for your campaign, and I just told you what David Sachs believes politically, the only way you're going to continue to get that money from David Sachs is long you still agree with him on those issues. And these two together, when it comes to the Silicon Valley banking collapse, both of them were invested in Silicon Valley Bank. Now they both hosting this fundraiser together where the cheapest plate is $3,000. That's not for you. That's not for me. That's for people in their class bracket. That's what they're doing. So for Ro Khanna to come on all these interviews and say that he don't take PAC money, that's fine. For him to say that he is not corrupt, and for him to say that he is progressive and all that, miss me with all of that. Because here you are fundraising with someone who stands against those very same progressive principles. And you guys are charging people $3,000 for a plate at his house. That fundraiser takes place next week, by the way. They all work together with this. They have class solidarity. And I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm going to say something here some people may not like. Some of the other people I firmly believe in this media space want to be at those dinners too. I firmly believe some of the people in this media space want to go to David Sachs fundraisers. They want to go to those fancy dinners. They want to mingle with people like Khanna. They want to mingle with people like AOC. They want to be in that same elite circle. Now, they're not going to come out and say that because they say they're progressive and that people need to be grassroots. But I'm just telling you, based on what I've seen over the past year and a half, I think some people in left media want to be sitting at that same table. Call it like I see it. Call it like I see it. Okay, that is it for me tonight, you guys. Make sure you share this with people. I'm going to ask Erin if she can clip at least that segment, the one about Khanna and David Sachs. And again, this is no shade to David Sachs for being what he is, right? There's no shade to him for that. The problem is that you have Khanna who brags about not taking corporate money, who brags about we need to be wary of the far right, and you have him doing fundraisers with someone who is against those very same principles and who is donating to Republican politicians. And I think Khanna knows that. I think Khanna knows that David Sachs donated to to J.D. Vance. I think Khanna knows that David Sachs donated to people like Kirsten Sinema. I think he knows that. I think Khanna is just in it to win it. And I think he's going to take money from whoever he can, as secretly as he can, because had it not been for this tweet, a lot of people would have never known about this fundraiser. And he's going to take that money from whoever he can as an individual contribution, even though these individual contributions are coming from the same corporatists that don't want these progressive policies to be passed so that he can run for president in 2028. Mark my words. So remember that. Now, if you want more Sabby, I will be live again in an hour on my channel. I'm going to be talking about, what am I talking about? I'll put up the thumbnail real quick. That's not the thumbnail. Sorry, my arrow. Why do I have two thumbnails that are the same? Anywho, I'll explain it. I'll be live again tonight. I did change this thumbnail. I changed the wording because I realized it was confusing to some people. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about that interview that Glenn Greenwald had with Marianne Williamson. Now, it says pushes Marianne. I didn't mean it the way that people took it, so I actually changed this. And now it says Glenn questions Marianne. When I said pushes, what I was trying to say is that he was pushing her on an issue, but people thought that he was promoting Marianne. So I changed that. We're going to talk about the demands that the Bronx Green Party is making towards AOC. They have some demands for her. We're also going to talk about TikTok versus Meta, because there's more that goes into this hearing that I didn't get a chance to talk about yesterday. We're going to talk about why Congress is really after TikTok. And we're also going to discuss France general strike. Things are on fire in France and they are not backing down. Okay. All right, guys. So I'll see you then. We will do call in tonight. I think we're going to talk about TikTok. I think the call in episode is TikTok. I have to double check, but I think it's TikTok. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Share that information. I'm telling you, share that information about Khanna. People need to see that.